Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to InfoGamer. For this video, I thought it would be a good idea to show you how to create a custom matchmaking feature using the Photon plugin in Unity. So let's get to it. Now before we get started, we'd like to invite you to join our new Discord server. On our Discord server, you can participate in live chats with us and other game developers. If you have a question regarding one of our videos, or if you'd like to receive help with the project that you are currently working on, you're welcome to send us a message over one of the Discord channels. On our Discord channel, you're also welcome to share any games or features you've been able to successfully create. To join our Discord, all you have to do is make sure that you have a Discord account and then click our invitation link in the description below. If you decide to join the Discord, you will also have the option to participate in our first ever open source global collaboration project, where we will attempt to create a mobile game with your help. With that said, you don't have to be a part of this project to join the Discord. I hope I'll see you there. Alright, so here we have our same project open inside of Unity, but to save on time, I've already started to set up some of the visual elements of our scene for a custom matchmaking feature. And so I'm going to go through the changes that I've made in my scene so that you can duplicate it in your project. So the first thing that I did was I created a new canvas, which I've called Canvas Custom Matchmaking, and the old canvas I've renamed to Canvas Auto Matchmaking. And I've done this so that we can develop our custom matchmaking feature on this canvas and we can just hide the other canvas. Now for our custom matchmaking canvas, I have two child objects. One is called Lobby and the other is called Room. And each of these game objects are pretty much the same. These objects themselves are empty game objects, but then they have child objects which have a lot of UI elements. We have a Create Room button, which is this button here that says Create Room. We have a room name input field, and we have a room size input field. And then we have a Find Room Join Lobby button, which is this one right here. And then we have our room panel, which is this image right here, which is where we will list all the different rooms that are available to join. Now all of these UI game objects can be created by going to the Create drop-down menu, going to UI, and here you can see we have buttons, we have input fields, and we also have a UI image, which is what I used for our rooms panel, this thing here. And the only other thing that I did, aside from resizing the objects and repositioning them, was for our rooms panel, I attached a vertical layout group and I deselected the height option in Child Force Expand. Once you've created this lobby game object, you can then duplicate it and rename it to be Room. And this is what my room object looks like. It's basically the same thing, except for I removed the Create button and the two input fields. And then I renamed the Rooms panel to just be Players, because this is going to be where we list all the players that are in the room. And then I've also left one of the buttons, which was the Find Room Join Lobby button, but then I renamed it to Start Game, and I changed the text as well. And I've then hidden it because only the master client will be able to see this button. And so we're going to enable it for the master client. So let's go ahead and disable the room object and re-enable the lobby object. Now, of course, everything that I've done within my scene is very simple, and I would expect you to customize your scene a lot more and add additional features. Now, once we have our scene set up, it's time that we start coding our custom matchmaking feature. And I'm actually going to do this by creating a new lobby script and a new room script from our previously created lobby and room script. And so I'm going to go to our scripts Photon folder, and I'm going to start with our Photon lobby. So I'm going to select that script, and then I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate this script. I can then rename this to be Photon lobby custom match. I then want to copy this name and open the script up in Visual Studios. Once the script is open inside of Visual Studios, we need to change the class name so that it matches our file name. So I'm going to select our Photon lobby right here, and I'm going to paste in the name of our script. I'm then going to change the data type of our singleton so that it matches our class. And that should make it so that we're not receiving any errors within this script. Now, some of the code that we have within the script we do not need for our custom matchmaking feature. And so periodically I might comment out or remove a section of code. And I'll try to tell you why that section of code is obsolete for this feature. So first off, I'm actually going to remove our battle button and cancel button variables because we do not use those in our custom matchmaking feature. This is going to throw some errors, and so we can just go down to those lines. We don't need to set the battle button to be active because we don't have a battle button. And same thing goes for these two lines. And same thing goes for these two lines. But we do need to add in some other variables. The first one is going to be a public string, and this one we are going to call room name. The next one is going to be a public int, and this is going to be room size. The next one is going to be a public game object, and this is going to be our room listing prefab. And then finally we're going to have a public transform, and this one is going to be our rooms panel. Now the next thing that we're going to do is use another special callback function, and this callback function belongs to the iLobby callbacks interface. And so after where we're inheriting from monobehavior PUN callbacks, we're going to add a comma and then type iLobby, and then it should say iLobby callbacks. So we're going to add that in. Once we have this added in, we can now create this callback function. And so I'm going to scroll down to, let's say, below our onConnectedToMasterClient function. Now below this, I'm going to type public override and then void, and the callback function is the onRoomListUpdate function. This function is called whenever there's been a change to the available rooms in a lobby. And the nice thing about this function is that it gives us that list of rooms. Now the first thing that we want to do within this function is remove all the current room listings. I'm going to do this within a new function. So let's call this function something like remove room listings. The next thing that we want to do is traverse through our room list parameter and create a new room listing for each room in this list. And so we're going to do this using a for each loop. So I'm going to type for each, and then it's room info, and I'm going to call this room in room list. Within this for each loop, we're going to create a new function that we can call to do all this work. And so this is going to be called our list room function, and we need to have a parameter where we pass in our room. Now let's go ahead and create these two functions. So I'm going to start with our remove room listing function. I'm going to type void, I'm going to paste the function name, parentheses, and then curly braces. Inside this function, we're actually going to create a while loop. So I'm going to type while, and then we're going to check to see if our rooms panel dot child count does not equal 0. So as long as there is a child to our rooms panel, we're going to continue looping through this while loop. And so all we're going to do within this while statement is we're going to destroy our rooms panel dot get child, and we're going to pass in 0, because as we delete the first child, the second child will become the first child. And so we're just going to continue to remove all the children of this object until that object has no more children. We're then going to add a .game object. Now let's go ahead and create our list room function. So right here, I'm going to type void, I'm going to paste the function name, and then in parentheses we need a parameter which will be of type room info, and we'll just call it room, and then we need curly braces. The first thing that we're going to do inside this function is create an if statement. And so we're going to type if, and we're going to check to see if room.isOpen, and we're going to check to see if room.isVisible is true. And if these are true, then we'll do what's inside. And the first thing that we'll do is instantiate a new room listing game object, which will be a child to our rooms panel. And so I'm going to create a new game object local variable, and this will just be our temp listing. And we're going to set it equal to instantiate, and we're going to pass in our room listing prefab, and then for the transform or the parent, we're going to pass in our rooms panel. Now there is a bit more code that we need to add to this function, but before we do that, we need to go back to Unity and create a new script. So I'm going to click on Unity, I'm going to go to our projects window, select the create drop-down menu, and then go to C# script. I'm going to rename this script to be room button, and then we're going to open it up in Visual Studios. Inside the script, we need to remove our start and update function, and then we're going to create some new variables. The first one will be a public text object, but text is not recognized, so we need to select it, hold Alt, press Enter, and then select using unity.ui. We're then going to call this one name text, and then we need a public text, and we're going to call this size text. Then we need a public string, and this will be our room name. And then we need a public int, and this will be our room size. We're then going to create a public function, and this will be to set our room. So I'm going to call it set room. And here we want to type name text.text equals room name, and then we want our size text.text to equal room size.toString. And I forgot the void here. We then need to create one more function, and this will be for when a player clicks on a room listing. So this will be a public void, and then we're going to call it join room on click. Inside this function, all we have to do is type Photon network, which isn't recognized, so I'm going to click on it, hold Alt, press Enter, and then select using photon.pun. Then we need to say .join room, and we're going to pass in our room name. Once we have this script finished, we can then go ahead and save it and go back to our Photon Lobby custom match script. And within our list room function, we're going to add some code. The next thing that we're going to do is get our room button component or script from the object that we instantiated. So I'm going to type room button, and we'll call this temp button, and we're going to set it equal to temp listing.get component, and then we're going to pass in room button and then have parentheses and a semicolon. Once we get that script, we can then set some of the variables. So we're going to set our temp button dot room name, and we're going to set it equal to our room variable dot name. We're then going to set the room size, so I'm going to type temp button dot room size equals room dot max players. And then finally we're going to call the set room function. So I'm going to type temp button dot set room. This will update the text objects that we'll have as part of our room listing, so it'll give the room name and the room size. Now let's do a little bit of cleanup. I'm actually going to remove our on battle button clicked function because we no longer have a battle button. And I'm also going to remove our on join random failed function because we're not trying to join a random room. We're actually trying to pick the room that we want to join. Within this create room function, we can get rid of this randomizer because we don't need to randomly generate a room name anymore because we're going to have an input field for that. We can then change this line of code where we are setting up the room options so that our room size, rather than being multiplayer settings.max players, we can just set that to be our room size variable. This is because we're going to allow the players to input the size of the room, and it's not going to be predetermined. And then finally, on this last line of code where we're calling the Photon network.createRoom, we can change this first parameter so that it is our room name. In the onCreateRoom failed function, we're going to comment out the createRoom function because we don't want to keep trying because the name won't change because it's not being randomly generated. And so if someone else has already created a room with that name, we're going to instead need to have some way to display to the player that that name has already been chosen. For now, we're just going to leave it as a debug statement, but I would advise you to actually have some sort of visual element that is given to the user so that they know that they need to change the name. We can also get rid of our onCancel button clicked function because we don't have a cancel button anymore. And I think that should be pretty good as far as cleanup. Now the next thing that we need to do is create a function for the input field of our room name. So this is going to be a public void, and I'm going to call this onRoomNameChanged. And then we need to pass in a parameter, which is going to be of type string, and we're going to call this nameIn. And then all we have to do is we need to set our room name variable equal to nameIn. The next thing that we need to do is create a function for the input field of the room size, and it's going to be pretty much the same as this function. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it, and then we can change the name to be onRoomSizeChanged, and then we're going to change the parameter to be sizeIn. And then we can change this line of code to be room size equals int.parse, and then pass in the size in. The last thing that we need to do in the script is create a function that will allow us to join a lobby when we click a button. And so this is going to be a public void, and I'm going to call this join lobby on click. Inside this function, all we have to do is first check to see if we're not inside a lobby. And so I'm going to type if not photon network.inLobby. And if we are not inside a lobby, then we can join a lobby, which is as simple as calling photon network.joinLobby. Once you've done this, we can then go ahead and save this script and go back to Unity. Once you're back inside Unity, the first thing that we need to do is create a room listings prefab. And to do this, I'm going to go to our rooms game object, which is this panel here. I'm going to right click on it, go down to UI and select button. I'm then going to resize this so that it is the width of our rooms panel, which is 700. And so type 700, and then height will be something like 75. We can then change the text so that it is best fit. And I'm also going to move it over to the left, and I'm going to scale it down so that it's more like 300. And then we can move it over to like 150, and I'm going to align it to the left and maybe do 160. We can then change this to be room name. And then I'm going to duplicate this text object, and this is going to be for our room size. Just type size, or maybe just even 0. And I'm going to align it to the right. And I'm going to then change this to -160. Then what we need to do is we need to attach our room button script. So I'm going to find that script, which is right here, and drag it onto our new button. We can also rename this button to be our room listing. We then need to set the name text variable and the size text variable, which are the child objects. We could even rename these objects to be name text and size text. And finally, we want to set the onClick event. So I'm going to drag in this script. I'm going to go down to room button and select join room on click. We then want to make a prefab out of this object. So I've actually already created a prefabs folder, but if you don't have one, then you want to create that. I'm going to select our room listing object and drag it into our prefabs folder. You can see that I have some other prefabs in this folder, which are just capsules with different materials on them, which I'm using to replace the character models that I had previously because those character models were really big. But now that we have our room listings prefab created, it's time that we create a new lobby controller. And so I'm going to actually rename this one to be AMM lobby controller. And that'll stand for auto matchmaking lobby controller. And then we can create a new empty game object. And I'm going to rename this one to CMM lobby controller. And the CMM will stand for custom matchmaking. Now we need to attach our new lobby script to this game object, so I'm going to go to our scripts Photon folder. I'm going to select our Photon lobby custom match script and drag it on there, and then we need to set some of these variables. The first one will be for our room listings prefab, so I'll go back to our prefabs folder, find our room listing game object, and drag it into that field there. And the second one will be for our rooms panel, which is this rooms game object here, and I'm going to also remove our room listings as a child to that game object because we now have it as a prefab. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable our auto matchmaking lobby controller so that we don't run that script. And the last thing that we need to do for this part of our custom matchmaking feature is set the event functions of these different UI elements. So the first one will be our create room. I'm going to select that object. I'm going to go down to the on click the plus sign. I'm going to drag in the custom matchmaking lobby controller. I'm going to go to Photon lobby custom match, and then I'm going to find our, there's one thing that we need to do. We need to go to our script and we need to make our create room function public. So I'm going to type public here and then save, go back to Unity. And now we should be able to find the create room function. There it is. Now let's go to our room name input field. I'm going to go down to the on value change and the on end edit. I'm going to drag in our custom matchmaking game object there. I'm going to go to Photon lobby custom match, and up at the top where it says dynamic string, we're going to select the on room name change, and we'll do that for both. Then we can go to room size and do the same thing. But this time we're going to select the on room size changed. Finally, we need to set the on click for our find room join lobby button. And click this plus sign, drag in our custom matchmaking, go to Photon lobby custom match, and then this one will be the on join, it's actually going to be the join lobby on click. Once we have all that, we should be able to run our project and we'll be able to create a new room, and then for our other player we're going to be able to join a lobby and then that room will be displayed. And so let's go ahead and build this. Once it's finished building, we're going to hit play in the standalone and play in the editor. In the standalone we can set a room name. We'll just call it my room. And we can set a room size, we'll say 8, and I'm going to hit create. And here you can see that it actually loaded us into the scene, and we're going to fix this probably in the next video. And if we go back to our editor, we can then click find rooms, and here you can see that we have my room and the room size is 8. And if I click this button, you can see that it added us into the scene. And there we have my object, which is red. You can see it down in the scene view, and the other object, which is green. Now I'm actually going to run another standalone, and if I hit play, once I hit find rooms, you can see there we have my room with 8, and I can join it as well. And there you can see we now have 2 green capsules and 1 red capsule, and that's just because with our character selection feature that we created in a previous video, the standalone is set to 1 character and the editor is set to another character. And so there you go, we're able to create the beginnings of a custom matchmaking feature for our multiplayer game. Now in the next video what we'll do is, rather than having the players load right into the scene, we'll actually display a room panel, and on that room panel we'll have a list of all the players that are currently in the room. And so that will be pretty cool. We'll also have a start button that will only appear for the master client, and when the master client clicks play or start, it will then load in all those players to the scene. Now make sure that you like this video and put any questions you have in the comments below. Also share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel so you can be up to date on all our latest videos. We also want to remind you that we are currently doing our first ever open source global collaboration project, where we will attempt to create a mobile game with your help. If you'd like to participate in this project, make sure that you join our new Discord server. There's an invitation link in the description below this video. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.